Fiasco Sports NBA season previews. I'm Matt Sampson. Join me once again, Joe Schwab, Portland Trailblazers. Get excited. Before we get started though, need to say thank you to Sporties at the Arkabar for having us here, letting us film. It's really good. These guys, great hospitality. So if they're as good to you as they are to us, and they have been, get down here, links in the description, check out their Facebook, come down, grab a meal, watch some sport. Portland Trailblazers. We've finally made the playoffs in the West, haven't we, Joe? The 8th seed, that's my prediction. 14th in the league, but 8th in the West. It's good, it's nice, it's refreshing to talk about a playoff team for once.
Exactly, yeah. Talk about a good, young, exciting team like the Trailblazers. All offense, not a lot of defense, but yeah, they're an exciting team to watch.
Yeah, I mean, last season got off to that incredible start, didn't they? It was something like 31-9 by late January.
Yeah, they were awesome in the first half of the season.
Like I said, with those all-offensive teams, people start to figure you out, and if you can't stop them scoring on the other end, it gets a bit harder to get those wins on the board. But, you know, a 54 and 28 record, that's not bad.
That's a very good season in the end, yeah.
Yeah, in the East, you're looking at the top of the standings. I mean, they finished 5th in the West, so they just missed out on a home court advantage. But did that matter against the Rockets?
Oh, no, it didn't.
No,
it sure didn't.
Damian Lillard, what can you say? We'll talk about him a bit later, and that shot, the shot. But, you know, 4th in the league for offense, 22nd in defense. Not really what you want, is it?
No, that's not exactly the sort of polar opposites. We're talking about it with a team like the Bulls.
Yep.
Their offense wasn't very good, but at least their defense is the best in the league. Having it the other way around probably isn't what you want in terms of really contending for the championship.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen the teams that win the championship can score points, that's a definite, but they can also stop people scoring on the other end. So, you know, like we've touched on it already, if you can light it up, you can be shut down, but if you can't shut someone else down, they'll light you up. Their strengths though, that blossoming young stars that they've got, Damian Lillard, LaMarcus, Aldridge, Wesley Matthews, he's not too old either, but those young guys just took the league by storm the last couple of years.
Yeah, I think especially the combination of Aldridge and Lillard, they were just putting up ridiculous amount of points, especially Aldridge in the playoffs. They look like they've really got something going there for the future of the Trailblazers, and they've got age on their side, which is the best thing.
Yeah, I mean, Lillard gets a lot of the credit for that win against Houston because of that game winner, but Aldridge came out and was dropping 40-point double-doubles on Dwight Howard, no less, so, you know, that's nothing to laugh at either.
Yeah, he definitely, he brings a lot, sort of a different style to their offense as a big guy. Like, he's not really a post sort of player. He just sort of is more of an outside jump shooter, which makes it tough for guys like Howard to defend.
Yeah, he really stretches the floor, but he's still got that size as well to go in there and grab boards too. The weakness was definitely that second unit though, because you know you can have all the stars you like, but when they're not on the court, you need someone else to score, and if you don't have someone to score, then you're going to lose.
Exactly. You look at the strength of the teams in the Western Conference this year, the better teams have good bench players. We always talk about the Spurs when we're comparing teams, but yeah, they are so good because they've got that second unit that can go out and get the job done. It's probably the biggest area that the Trailblazers really need to work on this year.
Yeah, well that's it. I mean, if you want to emulate success, why not look at the champs? And the Spurs do it the best with having that really deep bench, which is something the Trailblazers really haven't addressed. I mean, look at who they brought in the off-season. I mean, they brought back Steve Blake, it's his second stint in Portland, Chris Kaman, Deontay Garrett, and they lost Mo Williams, so that Steve Blake is sort of a like for like, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a like for like. They didn't really lose much, didn't gain much, just sort of, yeah, a backup point guard.
Yeah, but Chris Kaman is sort of an interesting pick. This one came out of left field for me that they'd go after Kaman because they need depth in their bench, and they've brought in a guy who has a track record of not playing a whole season. So he's on the roster, but if he's not playing, he can't really help, can he?
No, he can't, and especially he's an older fellow. He's got experience, but still, in my opinion, they needed to go after backcourt help. You look at their front court; they've got something good there with Aldridge and Robin Lopez. They need more depth in the backcourt coming off the bench, just guys that can score points. So yeah, it's a bit of a confusing decision to go and get Kaman.
Yeah, I mean the most memorable thing that Kaman did last season, I think, was fall asleep on the Lakers bench. So, you know, he is an all-star, a one-time all-star, so he is a good player when he does play, but I'm really just concerned about whether or not he's going to be on the court long enough to have that impact. And I mean, he can miss a middle chunk of the season, but if he gets injured in the playoffs, he's just going to be exposed.
Exactly, yeah. It'd kind of be a waste of a free agent signing if he's not going to give him much. You would have thought they'd go after a younger guy who can play more games and game time, like you said. But hey, if he can stay fit and healthy, even if he has to miss a few chunks of the season here and there, he'll add a bit of experience for him.
Yeah, I mean, they had to bring in someone at least because they didn't have any draft picks this season. So, you know, if he's available, he's front court depth here after, you know, why not take a roll of the dice? But, you know, looking at the 5 guys that they've got that I think will really impact the season is that starting unit. We've talked about it. The starting unit is so strong in Damian Lillard at the point guard, can light it up, excellent shooter from the outside. You know, he's going to have to be the leader and step it up once again to push them up the rankings. Yeah,
he's going to have to go to a whole new level. He's had a good first 2 years of the league, but if they want to be a real contender in the West, it starts with the point guard. He's going to have to take him that next step and get the rest of the guys to follow with him.
Yeah, and we talked about Aldridge already as well. He's a guy that he can play with his back to the basket, but he doesn't take it at the rim as much as he'll shoot that fadeaway over his shoulder, which is it's fair enough because that thing's money.
Yeah, I think it's a good combination him and Lopez have got going there, and then you don't always have to have both of them on the court. But yeah, like you said, when you've got a jump shot as good as his, why not use it?
Yeah, I mean, and Lopez can really be that rim protector. You know, he's not always the best defender one-on-one, but he at least is that big body that can take away the pressure from Aldridge having to step in and take charges, spot shots, just alter shots at all.
Exactly. Aldridge isn't the most physically dominating player, so having a guy like Lopez to do the grunt work, sort of, to really get in there and do the hard minutes is really beneficial for them.
Yeah, I think for me though, for just how the team's going to improve this season, the most interesting players out of these 5 are the 2 wing players in Wesley Matthews and Nicola Batum, because neither of them are at all-star status just yet, but you know, Batum especially has potential to do so, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely, and with the way the league's going these days, the wing players are so important on offense and defense, but they're on their way. But like you said, Batum's got that potential, and if they can get a big season out of him, then yeah, they could go to that next level.
He's having a good warm-up with the French national team in the World Cup at the moment. He's having to take a big role on, because they didn't take Tony Parker this year. I mean, they've got Boris Diaw and a couple other NBA guys, but to see him leading that French team is really encouraging signs, isn't it?
Exactly, it's a good experience for him. Any young player getting leadership experience at an international level is just amazing, and it's going to help his development in the long term, which is what they need, so he can then go back to the Trailblazers and help support Lillard.
Yeah, and they really do need him to step up because they matched a massive offer that the Timberwolves threw at him a couple of years ago. So they're investing so much in him, and they really need him to pay back this season to take that next step. Looking at Wesley Matthews though, he's another 3-and-D guy, isn't he? But he can be so much more. He was hitting about 16 points a game last season. Probably not all-star status, but definitely important to the team, isn't he?
Oh, another player. Those wing players are just really, really important. And if they can keep getting more out of him on both defense and offense, he's got a bit of potential. So yeah, he's going to be important.
Yeah, probably not an all-star, but definitely a guy that if he can keep up that points production and be that on-ball defender that they lack, because, you know, Lillard's not a great defender. He's got a bit of harden about him, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely. Like, you look at the best teams, like, not every player in your starting 5 has to be an all-star player. Sometimes you just need that guy who's just going to go in and play your role.
Yeah, but looking at Damian Lillard though, he's come in, he absolutely just took the league by storm in his rookie season, ran away with that Rookie of the Year when no one really saw that coming. And last year he really stepped up again, didn't he?
Yeah, a lot of times players will struggle in their second year because opposition coaches sort of learn a few things about him, they can shut him down. But to Lillard's credit, he just kept going and he really improved once again. You can almost say he's in that upper echelon of point guards in the league.
Yeah, I think he's really pushed. He made the All-Star team for the first time and he competed in every single event at All-Star weekend. So we know he's versatile in that sort of sense, but you know, he's an excellent scorer. He top 20 points per game last year, about 6 assists, so not an elite distributor, but certainly capable at this level. But just that 3-point shot is his deadliest weapon, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the most famous one was that buzzer beater against the Rockets. Probably one of my favourite buzzer beaters that I've ever seen. Just the way that he found space, got the shot off in time, it's just incredible.
Yeah, and he's got a bit of that game winner about him, doesn't he? Just that cold-blooded. A couple of times that he's come out and hit those walk-offs. Buzzer goes off in the air, ball hits the net, just done. Game over. Damian Lillard, thank you very much.
Exactly. You look at the best players in the league these days, and a lot of them, they're game winners. They do special stuff like that. Durant, Kobe when he's fit. LeBron, those sort of guys, they are game winners, and you've got to think Lillard's in that category now with some of the stuff that he's already done in just 2 years in the league.
Yeah, I mean, that three-point shot we keep going back to is so deadly. It's become such an important part of the modern NBA offense. I mean, he hit 218 threes last year, which is just a monstrous number. He smashed the rookie record his year before. He's beat out Klay Thompson for the most threes made in your first 2 seasons, so he's on record-setting pace as a three-point shooter.
Yeah, he's definitely doing well, and he's even doing that and scoring points. You've got to think if Matthews and Batum come along out on the wings, then he might not have to do that, but if he can still do it as well as those 2 scoring points, the sky's the limit for these guys.
Yeah, I think Lillard's someone I'm really interested to see how he develops over the next couple of seasons, because now we know what he can do. We've seen over 2 years that he's an excellent scorer, he's an excellent shooter, he's an all-star caliber point guard, but can he become just a respectable defender? He's not going to reinvent himself as a lockdown guy, but you know, if he can stay in front of guys and not get blown past so much, that's a massive step forward.
Exactly, yeah. You look at the whole Trailblazers team, defense is the area they need to improve on in the coming years, and it's going to start with Lillard, with how many great point guards there are in the league. He's going to come up against some superstars, and if he can start by shutting those guys down, then that'll go a long way to his team winning a lot of games.
Yeah, that's it. But I think we're getting a bit serious here, aren't we, Joe, talking about how the Trailblazers are going. So we're going to move on to the Believe the Hypothetical section. Thanks to the guys at the Believe the Hype NBA podcast for sending over questions for every team, 30 teams. We really appreciate it. Check out their info on the screen, follow on their social media platforms, and listen to the podcast. It's a really great listen in the car. I listen to it while I'm at work. I tell my boss, but you know, it's definitely worth your time if you love basketball. A couple Aussie guys have really producing some top-notch stuff, but we've got to get into it. This one, what do you reckon, Joe? Prediction for the season that Chris Kaman and Steve Blake, newly signed with the Trailblazers, start a support group for people that had to endure the 2013-14 Los Angeles Lakers.
I love this prediction. I think it's bang on the money. They could invite a guy like Steve Nash when his time's done at the Lakers at the end of this year. Hey, they could even invite Dwight Howard if he wants to show up. That was such a tormenting time for them. They probably need to get together and just sort of talk about it.
Yeah, I think there's going to need to be some talking, some feelings let out to sort of just get some closure on that season. I think definitely
just figure out where it all went wrong. Really,
I want to see that. You know, you see championship teams have reunions every 10 years, those milestones. I want to see what it's going to be like in 2023, 24 when this team comes together for the 10-year reunion of the 2013-14 Lakers season.
That'd be the most icy, awkward, bloody conversation ever, I reckon. They would just sit there shaking their heads, I reckon.
Do you think Kobe would show up?
No, not a chance.
I think it's going to go either one or two ways. He's either just going to completely blow them off, or he's going to come just to absolutely put them on blast. 10 years later, he won't have forgotten about it.
So that's a very good point. Yeah, you say Kobe's like that. He could just go and say, "You guys cost me another year. Why weren't you good enough?"
Yeah, no, it was definitely a rough year for the Lakers this season. But you know, Chris Kaman and Steve Blake, I think they found a better home in the Trailblazers this year.
Yeah, and even Pau Gasol's finally got out of there. So
Jody Meeks grabbed the money in Detroit and ran. So you know, complete overhaul of that roster. I think we've only got Robert Sacre and Steve Nash hanging out. But moving forward, we've got to wrap it up pretty soon. Buzzer beater section, 30 seconds. What's the prediction for the Trailblazers?
A bit of a tough team to predict for the Trailblazers, I reckon. I see them probably bottom half of the top 8 in the West again. They'll be around the mark. They'll have another good run. They'll win a lot of games, but defense is going to cost them. Aldridge and Lillard are going to put up a lot of points. Batum, he'll improve his output, but I can't really see him going past the first week of the playoffs.
Yeah, no, that's my prediction as well. I've got him slotted in for 8th in the West, which I think a lot of people are actually not going to agree with that, I reckon. But I just think all these other teams in the West, it's so super competitive. Everyone else has gotten better around them, whereas the Trailblazers have really stayed the same team. I mean, you take out that switch of Mo Williams to Steve Blake, that doesn't really count because it's not much more than a like Blake. And all they've added is Chris Kaman. Does Chris Kaman make this team any better than last season?
No.
Not particularly. So I see them 8th in the West, facing up against the Spurs in the first round, and we saw how that went last year.
Yeah, not too well.
So I don't know. Damian Lillard, if he can hit a game winner, win a series against the Spurs, that's definitely that evolution we're looking for, but I can't see him making it past the first round.
Definitely not.
Anyway, that's all we've got time for today for the Trailblazers. Once again, I want to say thanks to Sporties at Aqaba for letting us film. Definitely check out the description for all the info for their Facebook page and everything. thanks to Tom and Benjamin at Believe the Hype for sending these questions. We really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun going through them. A bit light-hearted compared. We got a bit serious.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
But yeah, once again, thanks for joining us. Catch us next time.